Welcome to Getting Real, episode 12. Is prospecting dead? In this episode, guys, we're going to take a deep dive down into my history with prospecting, what's going on currently with prospecting, and the future of it as well. I'm going to highlight best practices. I'm going to talk about why prospecting should be a part of your business. And lastly, how it's changed so much in these last few years and how it's going to continue to change in the years to come. Before we take that deep dive into prospecting and talking about everything entailed with it, I just want to take the time to thank you for one, supporting our mission here at Getting Real, supporting our mission at the Natale companies, whether it's local real estate, coaching agents nationwide, branching out our media company. We are changing this industry for the better. And you are part of it by listening, and I am so damn appreciative of you for doing so. If you could like this episode, share it, share the podcast, rate us 5 stars anywhere you're listening, anything you can do to continue to help us would make us even more appreciative of you. We have a big mission here at Getting Real, and that is to redesign and fundamentally change the real estate industry. So I'm happy you're here for the ride, happy you're here for the journey. Let's dive in to prospecting. Let's start talking about what is prospecting exactly. Because you probably hear it, it's a big buzzword in real estate, just like lead generation is. Prospecting is what typically you'd refer to as either cold calling, warm calling. It's proactively reaching out to people that do not know you to see if they would transact real estate with you. That's as simple as it is. There's so many different means of doing prospecting, but we're going to specifically talk about in this episode the best strategies for prospecting in today's environment. Not what worked in 2017, not what worked in 2015, not what worked in 2004, not what worked in 1992. What works as we end 2023 heading into 2024? Because prospecting as we've known it, I think has mostly died. The reality is not as many people pick up the phone as they used to. So we've had to change how we've had to prospect. That doesn't mean prospecting doesn't work. Doesn't mean you can't get business from it. But industries and methods change. They evolve. So we're going to go over some of the best strategies. We're going to talk about how to find some of these numbers to prospect. We're going to talk about why you should be prospecting and the benefit of prospecting. And we're also going to talk about those best strategies for doing so. So let's talk about first how it's changed. 5, 6, 7 years ago, far more people answered the phone than they do now. Let's all be realistic. It's a great thing on our phones that many of our cell phones now have a potential spam, automatic block feature, straight to voicemail if the number's not known. There's a lot of features built into your phones nowadays to prevent spam calling. Now, I don't consider prospecting spamming. I think prospecting is the strongest way to get real estate business if you need it today, because there's a science and a math behind it. If you call enough people, you will find someone that will transact business with you. That's the bottom line. If you've never picked up the phone, it might take you 1,000 people to talk to, but there is someone out there that you will end up talking to that will list or buy a home with you. If you got on the phone starting tomorrow morning and called all day, you will find someone. There's not many other activities that you can do in real estate that have that type of result. So that's why it is still important, but it's changed greatly, mostly due to the fact of how our phones, and also even in the last, let's say 10 years, even the boomer generation has moved away from having a home line. So now most people don't even have a home line in which they answer. Everything is through their cell phone. Their cell phone does the service we pay for, does everything we can, not to completely stop the calls, unless you have some sort of separate app for that. But it does tell you when people have potential spam numbers. It tells you when people might be from a business, or if your business is listed on Google, it will actually come up. The name will come up on their phone. So all these different things happen now that didn't used to happen. Plus, I don't know about you, but if someone calls me and I don't know the number, if I'm not doing anything and it's not a spam number, I will pick up the phone. But if I'm in the middle of something, I typically don't pressure myself to pick up the phone. And that's most people today. If they don't recognize the number, most times they're not picking up the phone. So you have to realize that that's changed, and that's fundamentally changed prospecting. But there's also so many different things you can do to get around that. The first and most important thing you should be doing when it comes to prospecting, if you want to get around the fact that not as many people are answering the phone, is hit people in so many different ways. You can't just call from your one cell phone line continuously and hope that people pick up the phone. You need to use either multiple lines. You can go on Google Voice, get a line there. You could use a CRM that has a line built into it, or a dialer built into it, or a private line built into it that you can use that for prospecting, because shifting up your numbers will really help. And just because not as many people answer the phone and you have to do some of these new strategies does not mean prospecting is dead. We do have to do things, I think, in several different ways, use different numbers. I think we have to blend calls and texts depending on who we are prospecting. And we're going to go over strategies in this episode, but we have to use call, text. We have to use some mail as well, especially when it comes to follow-up. And we're going to go through my follow-up process as well. These are different things that you're going to have to do to really seem all-encompassing when it comes to prospecting for it to work in today's market. It used to be, I'll be honest, it was probably easier in 2015, in 2014, 2013, in 2008, 2005. It was probably easier. More people had home lines. Those numbers were publicly accessible pretty easily. There was not many on a do not call list. There was not many that wouldn't answer their phone because there wasn't necessarily a system that told them exactly who was calling, and it was potentially spam. Some of the luxuries we live with ourselves, we can't blame on the fact that now prospecting doesn't work. That's not how things work. We just have to figure out different ways. Another huge way prospecting has changed is the old scripts that worked for honestly 20, 30 years don't anymore. So the BS line of telling a for sale by owner or expired or canceled listing, I may have a buyer for you, is so drawn out that people just don't buy it anymore. Because it also just doesn't make any sense. So when you tell a for sale by owner, hey, I might have a buyer for you, let me come and preview my house. One, that's what 99% of agents are saying. Still to this day, I think somewhat it's changing. However, a lot of agents still say that. And then they get there, they preview the house, and then they go back and lie to the seller and say, oh yeah, it's not right for my buyer. I don't know about you. And if you use this script, this isn't, an insult towards you. It's probably just the script you were shown from whatever company you're at. Why in the world would you lie to someone just to get in the door? What kind of business relationship, what kind of business are you going to build long term? And as someone who's been doing this now on my 16th year, I think I have the results to kind of back this up. That's not the best way to get business long term. You may lose out on a few listings by not lying. You may lose out on a few opportunities or a few doors you would have gotten into. However, building a sustainable business is something I've done where year over year, income goes up, opportunities go up. And I do that by telling the truth. So I don't lie to for sale by owners. If I have a buyer for them, great, awesome. I do tell them, hey, I have a buyer. I'd love to bring them by. But I do not lie to them. There's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason to lie. Trust me when I say this. People want you to be straight with them. Be direct. Tell exactly why you are calling, what you are about, how you are different, especially if you do get someone on the phone. Now, I will say the highest, most answered phone call will be the for sale by owner. They're the people raising their hand right now saying, hey, I'd love to sell my house. I just don't want to pay a real estate agent just yet. And that's perfectly fine. Everyone has the right to try to for sale by owner their house. It's not an issue. Then there's the next level is probably the expired. Hey, I was raising my hand last month, last year, 5 months ago, 3 years ago, whatever length of time you're calling. And now I'm not raising my hand right now, but who knows? I have to find out if I really want to sell again. There's also canceled listings. So that's someone I was raising my hand. Same thing as expired. I was raising my hand, but I fired my real estate brokerage. So now I am not under contract. There's also a term you've probably heard of called circle prospecting, where if you get a listing or have a piece of business or are farming a neighborhood or have a buyer looking in a neighborhood, calling every single homeowner, they can get their phone number and saying, hey, I have a buyer looking in your neighborhood. Those types of things are circle prospecting. Now, on the tiers, FSBO's number one in terms of conversion. Number two, right behind it, and kind of like 1A and 1B is expireds and cancels. And then below that, because you are just more or less cold calling, you're not warm calling, the other two are warm calling, is the circle prospecting. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. It actually means when you get someone on the phone who is interested, you have a way higher chance of converting it because of the fact that you're probably the only person calling them. However, to find that person who's interested is typically about 1 in 100. So you have to talk to 100 people to find that one person. That's why circle prospecting, to some, it's where they sometimes start because the conversations might be a little bit easier. However, if you want to talk to people and get experience with prospecting and getting on the phone, for sale by owners, number 1, expireds 1B, and cancels are 1B as well. Now let's talk some strategy around this, because I'm figuring that's why you are either listening or watching to this episode. The number 1 strategy when it comes to for sale by owners, expireds, circle prospecting, like I said just a few minutes ago, is to tell the damn truth. Stop worrying about BSing people. Just tell them the truth. You will find people that want to transact with you. I've talked about this in previous episodes about competition. If you think there's someone else out there in your market that delivers a better experience than you to sell someone's house, a for sale by owner, expired, or canceled, then you need to improve your damn service. I can't state that enough. If someone out there in your prospecting is better than you in terms of service, results, everything, you need to improve your craft. You absolutely need to. You need to step up your marketing game. You need to step up your content around the house. You need to make sure that your client satisfaction is at 110%, because that will enable you to not BS people. So you can actually feel it. A big issue I think a lot of new agents have, especially the ones I train here at my company, so I'm not just making this up, is when it comes to prospecting, they feel like, well, for sale by owner might be better off by themselves. Like, why would they hire me? Or why would an expired listing want to hire me? Like, the agent they had did a great job. The pictures were great. The video they had was great. The listing description made me want to buy the house. As a new agent, you have to either partner, have a mentor, be in coaching, some sort of presence with you in your business that makes your craft that much better very quickly. Because that's how you're going to earn the trust of the people you're calling. And that's what's going to help prospecting work. Because if we do have the best service, it is very authentic to pick up the phone and call a for sale by owner. It is authentic to pick up the phone and call an expired listing or a canceled listing. If you're telling the truth and your buyer's looking at a specific neighborhood and you know you can deliver a ready, willing, and able buyer, it is the authentic truth to pick up the phone and call a neighborhood, say, hey, I have a buyer for you. Have you thought about selling in 2024? That's the reality. If you honestly feel you are telling the truth, the phone conversations you will have will not feel like cold calling or even, to a sense, prospecting, like the negative connotation of prospecting. It'll feel like, hey, I just want to find business for myself. And this is how I'm doing it. Strategies with for sale by owners, expired / canceled, and circle prospecting are all different. So let's go over some of mine. When it comes to for sale by owners, this is where I'm made probably about at least 50-60% of my income as I built up a massive real estate business was through for sale by owners and expireds. They're, I was probably leaning towards for sale by owners though. You just have to understand exactly what they're doing. They are saying, hey, I want to sell my house. I most likely have equity in it, especially in this market. Whether I've had a bad experience with a previous real estate agent, I've never used one. I've done this so many times on my own that I don't need one, or I just simply don't want to use one just yet. I want to see if I save the money first. They all kind of fall into those 4 categories. And most of them are just kind of saying not yet. There will be some that absolutely right off the bat tell you to go screw yourself. I hate real estate agents, this, that, and another thing. Great. Cross them off your list. Get them out. But other than that, everybody there is an opportunity for you to earn their business. Even people that have sold a bunch of houses by themselves, I've worked with in the past. Even people that told me on the first phone call, I've done this a million times. I don't need a real estate agent. In a very cordial way. If they're nasty, then I take them off. That I've ended up working with. There was people that said, yeah, I'm not ready just yet. I'm thinking about it in a month, possibly listing. I might have someone in mind already. Still listed their house. It doesn't matter what the situation is. There's still opportunity out there. What I always did with for sale by owners, to be honest, was wait at least a few days, because I'm going to go over my script in a few short minutes and you'll see why. I do not call for sale by owners the day they list. 1, because so many other people are calling them. And then it plays into my script. And also, if you call them right away, like they're excited about possibly selling their house, great. They most likely, at least in this market still to this day, have other actual buyers reaching out to them, you need to have a for sale by owner typically doesn't list with the first person. Expired/canceled could be a completely different story. We'll get to it. But for sale by owners typically want to give it at least a weekend, at least some sort of shot at selling. So I usually wait, depending on when they list, I usually wait bare minimum 3-4 days, because that if it's on a Friday, I'll wait till at least the Monday or Tuesday. However, I'm typically calling somewhere between days 5 and 10 for the first time. And when I pick up the phone, again, I feel like, because I've worked with so many for sale by owners, I've literally sold hundreds of them, and fundamentally changed my life when I got over myself and started prospecting. So I know that I can help them. And I have many, many reviews from past for sale by owners where they had it at X, we sold it at X plus whatever. And then even if they sold it at X previously, even with commission, they still made out like bandits with how well of a job we did. And they didn't have to do any of the work. So I had the experience, but I had to build it up at first. So you just have to kind of believe in yourself and believe in your service, be upping everything you can possibly do in terms of service. So you feel in your heart when you call them that you will be the best option for them. When the phone picks up, I very simply ask for the owner. Hi, is this so-and-so? They say yes. I say, that's great. How are you doing today? Again, I am not jumping to the script right away. However, I know it's sometimes uncomfortable to be in an actual conversation. So when I ask them how they're doing today, there's one of two answers. I'm good, and then nothing. And there's I'm doing all right. How are you doing today? And if they ask me how I'm doing today, I'm like, okay. Neither one makes or breaks the conversation at this point. But if they ask how I'm doing, I'm feeling a little bit better about things. And then I very quickly pivot because, I'm not wanting to waste a lot of their time. So I let them know that. Again, first name, Jack, I'm sure you've had a whole bunch of brokers calling you about your house at 123 Main Street. And I'm sure by now, Jack, you're pretty darn sick of it. And I'll tell you right now, that's the most amount of people I list. They laugh at that. They go, oh my God, John, you have no idea. No idea how many real estate agents have called. I'm a real estate agent. And they might start going off about how much they hate the other real estate agents that have called and told them whatever script. But they'll usually just say, oh man, you have no idea. And I can imagine. However, I want to be extremely brief with you. I don't want to waste much of your time. We do things completely different here at our real estate company or here at our real estate team, or I do things completely different from any other agent that's calling you right now. So I'd like to just send you one email, Jack, a little bit about what I do, how I do it. Does that sound fair enough to you? And I would say if I get people on the phone, if they chuckle a little bit at the beginning, I'm coming from empathy. I'd say over 50% of people give me their email. And then this is what I think is key to what I do. I have a completely different style. I am a no pressure type of guy. I like to give information. If it's something you want to work with, great. I'm a believer in there is plenty of pizza to go around. You have to just find your slice and people will want to work with you. Doesn't mean you can't be proactive. We're going to talk about follow-up. However, I am not a high pressure person. So I'm not going to sit there and tell them they don't have a chance to sell. They need me to sell, any of these types of things. So they give me their email and I say, okay, great. I'm going to send it out to you. If you have any immediate questions, shoot me an email back. Have a great day. And then the next morning, I give them a call. So obviously send out an email. So we have a 47 bullet point of exactly what we do to help people sell their house. We have our statistics. We have it all, very basic flyers, but that's what we email them. And then after that point, it's all about the follow-up. It is 100% about the follow-up. If you want to convert through prospecting, it's 100% through the follow-up. So the next morning, I give them a call. Say, hey, Jack, it's John. We talked yesterday. Typically, they remember me because, again, I was different. I wasn't the same guy telling them I want to preview their house or I might have a buyer for them, whatever other BS you want to come up with. I'm the guy who was empathetic at the beginning, understood their pain point, that, man, they have a lot of real estate brokers calling. I was very brief on the phone, and I delivered on exactly what I said I was going to do. Sent them one email, not spamming them, not adding them to my email list. I literally just sent them one. So I called them the next morning and said, hey, Jack, it's John. They remember me. You get a chance to look through that email I sent you yesterday? 99% of people? Nah, I had work. I had, this going on, family, blah, 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 holidays, whatever the excuse. They never look at the email. Now I used to use a CRM that would track when people open the email, and 99% of people do. Whether they want to admit they looked through it, I don't really care. I plan for them to say no. Because sometimes people say, yeah, I actually looked through it and I have this question. Great. If the convo goes there, awesome. But typically it's, no, I didn't get a chance. No, it's perfectly fine. I certainly understand. I'm sure you're a pretty busy guy. How has it been so far selling on your own? Have you had any offers come in? First thing I want to know is what the picture looks like. Because this is where, is this going to be worth my time to continue to follow up? You know what? We already have 7 offers. Okay, great. More or less good luck with it, right? Goodbye. If something obviously changes, I do follow up with them. I'm not saying we completely write them off, but this is where we get a picture of what they're looking at. Yeah, you know what? We just popped it up last week. We had a couple people come through, but nothing just yet. We're not too much in a rush. Awesome. Say the perfect buyer walkthrough today, Jack. Do you know where you'd be going just yet? And this again speaks to motivation. The biggest thing you have to do when it comes to prospecting, and it's very similar with expireds and cancel. I'm going to go through my script there as well. You have to find their motivation. And these are the questions that do it. So we asked them, where would you go if someone perfect walked through today with a big briefcase of cash and said, here's my offer and you're going to move out. And some people say, I have no idea. That's why I'm doing For Sale by Owner. Great. That's awesome. That's what we like to hear, because then as long as you're the only person that follows up, you're going to get that listing. I'm telling you that right now. However, they might say, you know what, I already have a place down in Florida. We live in New Jersey, so that's a very common statement. We're looking to move to the Carolinas, wherever. When editing, this question goes before, so where would you be looking to go? The next question is a simple one. Is this your primary residence or is this an investment property for you? And the last question, if they didn't make it clear with where they want to go, is this a primary residence for you or is it an investment property? Because again, if we have these three big pieces of information, how the action is, where they're looking to go, and if it's a primary or an investment property, we can detail our entire follow-up strategy from there. So it typically looks like this. Very simply, hey, Jack, it's John. Oh, yeah, John, I remember. Great. How you doing today? We're great, blah, blah, blah. Jack, you get a chance to look through that email I sent you yesterday? No, not yet. That's perfectly fine. I understand. A lot of people tell me that they're a little bit busy this time of year. How's the action been, Jack? John, it hasn't been too good. We've been on for a couple weeks. Oh, it makes perfect sense. Have you had any offers come in? No offers. Just we actually had someone come back with their parents yesterday, but we haven't heard from them. Okay, great. Say they do come back with an offer. It's a great offer that you're going to take. Where would you be looking to go if you sold, Jack? We actually, my wife and we already have a place down in Florida. We already built it. We own it. Great. Awesome. And this current home here, this one at 123 Main Street, it's your primary residence or an investment property for you? Because again, you just want to make sure. You never know. Oh yeah, that's our primary home. Great. Those three things enable you to open up the entire follow-up process from there. So one thing we do is the day we get their email and the day we have that first conversation, we're sending them out the flyers that we emailed to them. Then after the follow-up, we are detailing a strategy, usually based on that conversation of how much we should be touching them. But basically, if someone's showing the house, hasn't sold yet, knows where they're looking to go, but just haven't listed just yet, we're probably following up with them once a week. And the follow-up changes week by week. Sometimes it's, hey, did you get an offer this week? Did you end up selling? Kind of coming from being on their side, or hey, did you see the one up the block just sold for $860? You see, but it only had that really funky kitchen. Trying to bring those enveloping those things in will immensely help you in your follow-up. I think a lot of people, they just don't know what to say, but as long as you're the one who's consistently calling with some sort of bit of value or asking about their situation and using the information from that first follow-up call, so that second call overall, you will get more listings than not using this strategy, especially with For Sale by Owners. But here's the thing. It typically takes anywhere from 5 to 8 calls before someone's like, yeah, just come over, let's meet. It doesn't just happen right away. I've made tens of thousands of prospecting calls, tens of thousands. On these two hands, not even 10. I think I actually counted. I think it was 7. 7 people off the first phone call. And this is someone who has somewhat of a local presence. Most of those people actually knew me before I called. Those people were like, hey, John, yeah, you do something different. Come on over. I need to list this house now. Some of them were really nice too, but that doesn't happen typically. So if you bank on that and you only call people once, you are never going to have success. If you call people twice, just do the follow-up call, you are barely ever going to have success. Up until you get to about the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th call on the typical potential client, you are not going to have success doing this. So if you do not commit to the follow-up strategies, don't commit to anything. Your time is better suited doing something else. I'm just being 100% honest. If you call people and you just try to get previews of their house, and if they don't preview it to you, that's your entire strategy, you're going to have a terrible For Sale by Owner strategy. Your strategy needs to be based on empathetic scripts that you understand their issues, listening to what they have going on, what their issues are, coming up with solutions, being patient, being proactive, and kind of just updating them about the market, what's going on around them, what's going on something maybe new that you're doing on the marketing side of things, enveloping those into the follow-up calls will change everything for you. But that's how I set everything up, is those first 2 calls. Low pressure, barely any pressure. If they don't want to give me their email, I do ask a second time on that first call. But after that, like if they're that not interested, move on. Find the people that will be. Find the people, find your tribe. Same thing we talk about in content. Find your tribe. So now let's go over expireds. The scripts and everything are kind of similar. It's just a little bit of changed language. The timing, though, is different. Expireds and cancels, you do want to call that first day. Your highest chance of listing them and getting good conversations, because by the 3rd or 4th day they've been expired, they've had so many agents call they stop picking up the phone. Typically. Doesn't mean if you're just starting out, you shouldn't call anyone that's not a new expired. Just means ongoing strategy. I always found calling them the day they expired or the day after was always the best strategy. Now, when it comes to old expireds, this was always one of my bread and butters, was calling the expireds. So we're sitting at the end of the year. So I don't know when you're listening to this, but say you're listening to it in April. Calling the people that expired now, October, November, took it off for the holidays, 6 months from now, is very smart, because most people have completely stopped calling them, and this is when they might actually be looking to relist. So even if you are listening to this now in the holiday season, maybe looking back to see who listed their house in, I don't know, January, expired in July or August, they took it off, so it didn't end up selling. They may be looking to list again this January. So you should be calling them now in the month of December. So old expireds work. You can go back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It doesn't make a difference. Like you can call people that tried to sell their house in 2019. Say, hey, you tried selling it for $300,000. Did you know your house now is worth $800,000? There's strategies around all of it. The script for a new expired is pretty much the same as the for sale by owner. But instead of saying, I saw your property was for sale and came off the market at 123 Main Street, I don't want to waste much of your time, but we do things completely different from other brokerages, from other agents, from other teams. Insert your language. And I'd love to just shoot out one email about what we do and how we do it. Does that sound fair enough? The one strategy, and again, if you do it on your expired call, this is where you have to find a script that works for you. I'm not hateful towards the, what happened with it, or why, did it come back on the market, or, what's going on with it? Like asking that before going into anything. But I kind of just would go with my script. And then if they ended up saying like, oh yeah, I relisted with my agent this morning, okay, and the listing wasn't up yet or something. Or if they say like, yeah, I'm going to be just taking it off for a week and then relisting with the same agent, I'd still go through like a little bit of a script. However, I would let them tell me that to my script, because they're going to tell you whatever's going on anyway. So sometimes you'll get the email. Great. I see expireds. If about 50% of for sale by owners give me their email, expireds is probably like 30 to 40%, because there's usually there's a higher chance that they're not trying to sell anymore. They might have taken it off the market 3 months ago and now it just expired. They might be relisting with their agent right away. There's quite a few things that could have happened. So I find that a less percentage give me their emails. Same thing with cancels. It's the exact same script. I saw your listing came off the market at 123 Main Street, and go on from there. Now, the follow-up strategy, I think you have to be a little bit more aggressive with the expireds and the cancels, especially if they're like, yeah, we just don't know what we're doing just yet. We were hoping it would sell. It didn't sell, whatever the reason was. I'd probably be trying to touch them more often than a FSBO, which might be once every week or once every other week, depending on their time frame. Especially if they're giving you the feedback like, hey, we are going to be trying to sell again. The follow-up call to an expired is pretty similar to a for sale by owner, but I'm asking about kind of what happened. So, hey, Jack, it's John. We spoke yesterday about your expired property. That's when I say, whatever happened, why do you think it didn't sell? And then you get all sorts of myriad reasons. Not always are they going to be like, yeah, my agent sucked. Now I need a new one. I need you. That barely ever happens. But a lot of times they'll say, I don't know if the price was too high. We had a buyer, the deal fell through, and then we couldn't get one. Whatever the situation is. Okay, great. When you were on the market, where were you looking to go? So when that offer came in that fell through, were you looking to stay local around here or get out of Dodge? What were you trying to do? Same thing with the last question. And by the way, is this your primary residence or an investment property? And here's the key. Once you have those bits of information, whether it's a for sale by owner, expired, canceled listing, everything follow-up wise should be just kind of reconfirming those points and asking if anything's changed, add in some value here and there, and you have a very easy ticket to being able to list a lot of homes through prospect. Do you have to call more people to reach the same amount of people you had to 5 years ago? Absolutely. Hands down, you have to call more people. However, a lot of people have forgotten the craft of mailing, print marketing. You can retarget people, so you could use their email to retarget them through social media, so then they start seeing you more and more. There's so many different ways to hit people now versus 8 years ago, even outside the phone. So once you do get them on the phone, get their email address, there's so many different ways to hit them now, and they're almost like forgotten ways, especially with the mailers, that you can absolutely crush it because you're the only person doing it. If you come up with a really good strategy, and this is what I suggest everyone do. This is what I did in about 2014, 2015 when I first started prospecting very heavily. And I've always improved this. I sat down and said how many people I wanted to call, how much I needed to talk to them, how many contacts, all this stuff. I started measuring all of that. And I also said, like, what is my strategy going to be? So I'm going to call them the first day. I'm going to follow up the second day. And then the follow-up from there has to depend on that conversation. What are the mailers going to look like? So I send them the mailer on the first day, send them the mailer on the second day, and then every Friday of each week, I send everybody I talk to a third flyer with basically just a thank you note, handwritten, that says, hey, I appreciate your time. And I have terrible handwriting, but I write it real quick. Hey, I appreciate your time chatting this past week with me about your house. So in the first week I talked to them, I've called them twice, and they've gotten 3 pieces of mail separately from me, which again isn't cheap anymore, especially if you're doing this at a high level, because stamps are, I think, like 60 cents each now. However, you're going to convert a lot of these because in that first week, you're touching them 5 times, especially if it's their primary home. And then your follow-up strategy is like they already know you. If you're blending in some retargeting through social, if you're blending in maybe just sold, like if it's super local to the area you already sell, like a just sold flyer, a just sold postcard, you are going to convert these listings. Prospecting as we know it, I think has mostly died because you do need to talk to more people. However, the strategies themselves still work. So it doesn't work exactly the same as it used to. However, it does still work. You just have to do things a little bit differently. Now, I would also say part of my strategy with both for sale by owners and expireds and canceled is if I call them, a lot of them still don't pick up. Okay, so what do you do then? And this is where newer technologies and just newer systems and things that you might not have done in 2015 are kind of acceptable now. And that is, if I call them 5 times, however many days, and they haven't picked up, then I move to a text call blend. So then I see like maybe they'll just respond to a text. And in that text, I kind of just put more or less my script opening. Hey, I'm calling about, I've been calling about so-and-so, this property, this the owner. And then I go through my script through text. Is it more cumbersome than one phone call? It is. However, you have to hit people differently than you used to. If it's a great potential listing in an area that we farm, that we were local to, we pop flyers in the mail consistently to them. We want people to hear from us. There's no reason to just give up because you called them one time and they didn't answer. You should be calling people different times of the day, several days over the first week you're trying to call them, have them on some sort of routine follow-up, even if they don't answer the phone. I always do, I'll add this too, this is another best practice, I always do leave a voicemail on the first call and the third call. The first call is just a very generic voicemail that just says, hey, it's John Natale, owner of Natale Realtors. Just had a quick question about your property at 123 Main Street. Give me a call back, 732-546-6177. And that is my cell phone. And on the third call, I go a little bit deeper. I've called you, I called you a few times about your property at 123 Main Street. Wanted to see, obviously, if it's still available, if you're still trying to sell it. We do things a little bit differently at our company that I wanted to discuss with you. Give me a call back. Again, I don't like to deceive people. We don't get them too much anymore. But how much do you hate the voicemail? It's, hi, it's John. Call me back. I have no idea who the hell you are, John. So now you're trying to confuse people into calling you back. And then when you get on the phone, you're then going to tell them you might have a buyer for them or you want to list their house. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the long run. Yeah, you might deceive someone. You might skillfully sell on someone. But that's not building a career in real estate. That's not building a real estate business, deceiving people. So I hope you understand now. Prospecting is not dead. And when it comes to circle prospecting, you have to realize you have to call a lot of people to talk to that one person that might be interested. But the best circle prospecting strategy works one of 2 ways. When you have a listing in their neighborhood and you want to call and be proactive of if they'd like to pick out their neighbor, to give you a call with that person's information. So it shows you're proactive. So that call is, hey, Jack, it's John Natale. I'm the listing agent over at 123 Main Street. I see you're at 127 Main Street. You've been there for a while. However, I like to be as proactive as possible when it comes to selling listings. So I'm calling you, Jack, to see if you know anyone and if you'd like to pick out your neighbor over at 123 Main Street. And most people say absolutely not. And it's not too actually, if someone does, I've sold quite a few listings this way, but typically they're not going to say yes. No, I don't really know anyone. How much are they asking it? They're asking $450. By the way, Jack, I'm going to be doing a neighbors only open house this Sunday. Our first open house is this Sunday, 1 to 4. I'm going to do neighbors only from 12 to 1, just in case you want to pop by. I know sometimes people are a little bit nosy, want to see Jack and Susie's house. So if you want to come by then. Quite a few people will take you up on that offer. Then you call them again in 2 weeks when it's under contract. Hey, Jack, it's John. We spoke a couple weeks ago. I know you didn't have anyone. We ended up having 6 offers come in on it. So now I'm kind of just calling because we have leftover buyers to see if you know anyone maybe in the neighborhood that's thinking about selling that I can kind of reach out to directly to let them know. The point is, I never ask them if they're interested. It's to take the onus off them to understand, like, okay, I don't need to be the one. But maybe if I know someone, I still probably don't have enough rapport for them to actually tell me. But if they do know someone, maybe I'll share it. Or again, now when we call a third time after it closes. Hey, Jack, it's John. We just closed. Did you see the price they ended up getting? We're asking $450 and we got $490 for it. I know I asked you this 2 or 3 weeks ago. Things could always change though. Do you know anyone in the neighborhood thinking about selling that I can directly reach out to? That's the circle prospecting that works. And on the flip side, if you do have a buyer in an area which you farm, calling and letting people know, I have a ready, willing, and able young family, whatever, older couple that's trying to buy in here, whatever the situation is, and they would love to try to get into a house before it hits the market because things do sell, and it might be a convenience to one of your neighbors if that's the case. Do you know anyone that's thinking about selling in 2024? That is the 2 best ways to circle prospect. You just have to talk to more people to find the people that would be interested in transacting. But it does work. And those 3 levels of prospecting, if you blend together all the different types of ways you can reach people, from calling them, from texting, from sending flyers and mailers, to postcards, to retargeting through social, all of these different ways you can reach people nowadays makes prospecting far from dead. It's different, it's changed. And I hope you understand now, after this episode, the scripts are not that hard. The follow-up is not that hard. And I hope that you envelope some of this into your business for 2024 so it could be your best year in real estate from it.